Yeah, beep beep. That'll wake you up. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the special council meeting for March 7th to order. I'd also like to note that there will be a closed portion of the council meeting immediately following the open session. And I'd like approval for the agenda as outlined tonight. It's moved. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our next item of business is the public question comment period. We have 10 minutes for that and 2 minutes speaking time limit per person. And I'll just note for people who do want to come up and speak that we just installed, and this is just a temporary installation on a new timing device. The actual the decision to order this was in the works last year. So finally we've just got it loosely run so everybody will see that we're going to want people to try to stick to 2 minutes, and it's in order to keep it fair so that everybody gets the equal time. So who would like to speak? If you want to come forward, go ahead. Could we have your name and...
Ellen Lures, 5526 Duke Road. A couple comments with your council procedure bylaw. On page 23(7), it says council must, whenever a vote on a matter is taken, each member present shall signify by their vote by raising their hand. And I noted that that's not been happening. And I really would like to know if it's a yay or a nay, where you stand. And I really would like to see that happen. The committee of the whole, what used to be, what Wendell was after, was opening up the meeting so that the public could speak. And he allowed us to speak to things that weren't on the agenda, any concern that we may have. And I'd like to see that put into the council procedure bylaw. I also would like to see that the public was allowed to speak before each item, because quite often, before the council votes, because quite often there's something comes up, I'm going, I know something about that, and obviously the council doesn't know, and they vote, and it's like, oh, no. So it'd be nice if the public was able to speak at that point. I don't know if I can speak to this. About your municipal financial development schedule that you had on, what date was that? February 23rd?
If I may, we are going to be talking about our council to consider a presentation dealing with when we're going to be having our meetings, and that will happen later on in the agenda.
Well, this is in regard to this, what you voted on. This was what was presented to the public Tuesday, February 23rd, your agenda. And then there was a yellow copy came out the day of, which I didn't have a chance to really look at. And I see that there's a transfer from funds on Schedule A.
Right.
2016 on the white page shows 4,112,357, and on the yellow page it shows 2,687,357. And under capital expenditures is also a reduction. It says transfer from own funds, so there was a great reduction, over $1 million. So where did that go, and what happened there? Is my question.
It looks like the red light's beeping. So just to give you some comfort, next meeting on the 14th, all of the department heads will be making a presentation, and I'm sure they've taken note, and in their explanatory notes on certain elements of the budget, I no doubt that will be discussed. Okay?
Council voted on that.
I understand that.
Did they know what they voted on?
But, if I just may remind you, yes, but at the same token, for your benefit and the other members of the public's benefit, more details will come out in regard to those adjustments that did occur. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, thank you very much. The next item of business is dealing with B7, and that's bylaw number 6632, the Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw for 2016. Mr. Blackhall?
Yes, thank you. So this is a bylaw we bring forward every year. It sounds really loud. And it's just so that the bank can have some comfort that if we need to go into our line of credit, that they know they have the authority. So it's a standard bylaw. It's nothing different than what we brought forward last year, and it allows us to borrow up to 75% of all municipal. It's really all property taxes for all purposes, but we limit it to just the municipal portion. So, and the amount is within the bylaw on the next page. So this is the report, and it's for council to give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any council members that have any questions? Okay, the recommendation is to introduce and give first reading to the bylaw. Is there anyone prepared to make that motion? It's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Could I get a motion for second reading? Been moved and seconded. And all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Could I get a motion for third reading?
Third reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And that will be coming back for fourth reading or reconsideration and final adoption next week, correct?
I believe that is correct.
Yes. Okay, very good. So the next item of business, again, is Mr. Blackhall, and that's dealing with the 2016-2020 five-year financial plan development schedule. And so I'll turn that over to you.
All right, thank you. And this report is really just outlining the plan for bringing the budget forward and a schedule for it to be heard and discussed. So we're planning on bringing it forward to Committee of the Whole next Monday, and then a special council meeting on March 21st, and then regular council on March 29th. And really the financial plan and the tax rate bylaws have to be approved by May 15th. So that's why we try to get it done a little earlier.
Okay. Do council members have any questions or comments regarding the schedule? It's been moved and seconded. I just have a question and a comment. So based on the question and comment that we heard earlier from Ms. Lures, the details in regarding her question would come out during those discussions?
Yes. Usually the plan document we bring forward is all the departmental pages and all the capital plans, how each little line item rolls up, and then the bylaw, the very end result of the whole thing is a very summarized version of it. So yes.
Okay, and I guess my last comment is that with this schedule, we'll meet all of our statutory timelines in preparing the budget, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, very good. All right, I'll call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item of business is our council procedural bylaw and the recommendations. And we'll have our Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Joseph. I think that's in your bailiwick right now?
That would be mine, yes.
Okay, very good. Carry on.
Mr. Chair, this is just a preliminary report or kind of making council aware that we're going to be bringing forth some bylaw amendments next week. There's been some confusion around your procedural bylaw. And to start off, I'll actually circle back, as Councillor Parkinson asked me a question a couple of weeks ago around people speaking to the minutes. And I gave procedural advice at that time that I didn't think that would be in order. And actually, I found that in your bylaw, section 21-2, and I quote, "The minutes of a previous meeting may be amended but not debated or reflected on at the time they are considered for approval." So for whatever reason, there's been a number of sections in your bylaw that were maybe never explained properly, or they were not being adhered to. And so for whatever reason, there's been a lot of confusion, and we want to eliminate that. We want to also increase the ability for the public to participate in your meetings. That's a very important part of democracy. And so we're going to be bringing forth a number of amendments to address those issues. And this is basically, if council has any concerns they'd like me to take into account while I'm preparing those amendments, you can let me know.
Okay, are there any council members that have any questions or comments? Councillor Pearson and then Councillor Parkinson.
Yep. Yes, thank you, Joseph. And again, there's a couple things that I think that you've hit sort of the mark on here, is getting back to the way we understood it to be, even though we were in contravention of our own bylaw. I like the piece about the increasing the delegations from 5 to 10 minutes, because often they're already in that, past that 5 minutes anyways. The only thing that I had is about the 2 minutes, because, and I know we got a timer and we plan on that. It seems like 2 minutes gets chewed up pretty quickly. I don't know I'm just kind of thinking, it seems like you get up there to talk for 2 minutes and then, the point doesn't ever get made, and lots of people go over anyways. So I don't know I'll just like to see what other councillors think, because it seems like 3 minutes. I mean, I don't know that 2 is too little, and I don't know that 3 is too much. I don't know. It just seems like 2 minutes seems to be limited. Just an opinion at this point. So, but I do like that we're bringing this back and getting it cleared up. Thank you.
Councillor Parkinson.
I would agree with Councillor Pearson. I would like to see the 2 minutes increased. I would hate for someone to be talking and then their time's up, and because the bylaw says they can't go any longer, that we cut them off at that. And I think that would be unfortunate. And I also like the idea of the previous council where they had current events, so that people actually get to talk on something that is important to them. We had a number of women in here last meeting who wanted to ask questions about something on their property, and they weren't able to talk about that. And some people would like all of council to be able to hear and not just a staff member. So I would like to see current events brought back to the table, and current events could be along the same lines where it's only 3 minutes as well.
Councillor Ray.
Yes, my read of this in F, the amendments, is that each person would be allowed to speak for 2 minutes to any item on the reports, or the reports of the bylaws. So virtually, if there were 4 items, then they would be able to speak for 8 minutes. So they would get 2 minutes for every item, rather than just the 2 minutes that they currently have. Do I understand that correctly?
And that would be 2 minutes as the item comes up. The idea is that, which is a practice very common in other municipalities, as a staff report comes up, the staff would make your presentation to council, staff would step back, and then any member who's registered would come up and get 2 minutes on that item, and then council would ask questions. So we deal with them on an item-by-item basis, so you're not hearing a comment at one point and then dealing with the item an hour later.
Thank you.
Councillor Logans.
Thank you. I'm glad this is being looked at. The delegations being 10 minutes, I would agree with Councillor Pearson that that's a good idea. It's actually standard across many municipalities that it's 10 minutes, and lots of our presentations go over, so it'd be good for our delegations. I do also like that we are looking at 2 minutes per item. I think that will give people a lot more, it'll give us a bit more clarity. It'll answer a lot more questions. And allow a bit more time for public input. Another thing that I would like to see, if possible, is some adjustments to the delegation application form. Right now, it's just a couple of lines, and it doesn't really ask for anything, so we can't really expect much from it either, right? So I was looking at some other forms, and they had things like requested dates, alternate dates, to show if it's important for the next meeting or if it can be pushed to another one. Whether it should go to a specific committee, so is it related to Parks and Trails? Should it be at the COW? Should it be at the regular council meeting? And then listing, there was another one that I liked that was listing any requests that are being asked of council. I think that's pretty important, because that's always my number one question when we have a delegation. And then my only concern really with this was and perhaps there's some clarification. I'm not reading it properly, but there was one thing about the presentation materials being submitted the Monday preceding the meeting. And I think, having looked at a few others, municipalities, they do require anything that the delegation wants added to the agenda package as on that week before. But my concern is that it's worded properly so that it doesn't sound like your entire presentation has to be complete and perfect a week before, because that will put a lot of pressure on people that I don't think we need to do. And I know there are a few youth groups who want to come in, make presentations. They're not going to be ready, especially if it's a timely matter. So those are my 2 minutes are up.
No, you can speak for 10 minutes, actually. Councillor Ray.
Thank you. And I was just looking at, and I think where we're talking in D, delegations will be limited to 2 per meeting. I'm just wondering if there is a way, in case something comes up that's, as Councillor Logan sort of spoke, that's time sensitive, that there's a mechanism in there that we could have a third if needed, whether it would take a vote of council or something, but just sometimes there's time-limited stuff that comes up, and if we've already got 2 booked and they've been approved, then I'd hate to see one, get stopped.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the Councillor Ray, we actually have we're bringing forth not just changes to the procedural bylaw, but the format of the agenda as well as reporting structure. So there'll be a number of things for your consideration next week.
Okay, does anybody else have any more to comment on? All right, so if I may, I support a lot of the changes and the suggestions made by the council members, and I hope that staff will take note on that. I don't think we need to make a formal motion as to what we think should or should not be in the bylaw. It's my hope that by increasing the question comment period after each item of business throughout the council agenda, that we, in some instances, we may have increased public input 300, 400, 500, 1,000%, depending on how many items are actually going to be up for council to decide on and to make a decision. The other thing is that if we can add or create some clarity and to make sure that when the bylaw is done in its final form, that it's clear and there's an understanding by the general public, and then also to assist delegations and speakers that if we had kind of a little like a prompting sheet, guideline, or some kind of helpful hints on how to make a presentation, what to expect, and perhaps that could go on the back of the form so that when people do receive the form, they also have some assistance, and that hopefully staff can be readily available to give them a helping hand in some way if they do have any questions or would like some ideas or concepts as to what type of presentation to make. It's been my finding, I guess, over the years that that there have been delegations that have come, but we as council members, and more importantly the public, especially the public that's at home that may be watching the council meeting, have no idea what the presentation is about. And by trying to get as much information as possible into the system, then that information can then go out to other people in the community. And it's my hope that by making the changes, we're a lot more transparent as far as the local government is concerned. We've made great strides over the past 5 years, but I think we can do better, and hopefully that'll happen. So could I get a motion then as per the recommendation that's outlined? It's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have a next item here, and that's reports, and we have RR1, which is drainage issues, and we have an update for council. And we've got Mr. Rob Howitt here. And Rob, you've got more than 2 minutes, okay?
Thank you very much. I put this report for your information and hopefully consideration. In the last couple of years, it's becoming very apparent within the district, within the boundaries of the districts, that some of our drainage facilities are becoming very old and very tired, and they need replacing or upgrading. And I put this little bit of an information package together for you for your consideration. We've had a couple of incidences in the last couple of weeks where we've had to go in there and actually replace a couple of culverts because they've deteriorated and collapsed. And I think it would be very useful if we had an annual budget, and I suggested a figure of $300,000 a year that would facilitate us not only going in there and fixing stuff that becomes very obvious, but we have historically been asked by residents to deal with things, and they haven't been done because of other budgetary constraints, as far as I can see anyway. So as far as my report goes, I'd like to let it sit self-explanatory, but I'd like to answer any questions that you might have.
Councillor Pearson? And
Yes,
then
yes.
Councillor Berg?
Well, I think, Mr. Howard, I think this is very timely because, over the 4 years that I've been on council, it comes up all the time, and we have some traditional bad areas that never seem to get fixed. So I think this is very timely, and it's about time that we took a proactive step in fixing those drainage issues. I think it wasn't that long ago when we had the development permit with the secondary car wash, and there was confusion about surface water and where did that water end up going, from the back of that road draining back. And back in the day, we used to have Mr. Smokey Stoltz looking after all kinds of culverts and pipes and things that were on people's private property. And when he left, so did that legacy of knowing where that stuff is. So, no, this is very timely and well done. So I think it's appropriate. So I'm going to be supporting some kind of action, at least getting this on the budget. So it's very important. Thanks.
Councillor Berg?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not talking a ton tonight because I don't really have much of a voice left, but I just wanted to say, echoing in Councillor Pearson's comments, that I too am quite happy to see this come forward. Souk River Road is in horrendous shape, as we all know, and I drive down there every day, and it will be nice to see some drainage issues with respects to our roads really get looked at, so we're not going to find ourselves in a more dire need once the road washes away or what have you. So I too look forward to seeing your, high areas that you want to look at first. So thank you.
Councillor Parkinson?
I was wondering if you had a list of the ones that are in desperate need of repair, like Souk River Road. Is there a list for that?
I've prepared a short list for this year. One of the issues is Souk River Road.
Right.
The other one is the one that Councillor Pearson alluded to, was Atherley Close. And the third one is another one up here off of Road Night at Eakin Road.
Yep.
It's been an annual problem. People are getting flooded, and those are the priorities set for this year, plus a little bit of budget for other ones that might come forward this year. But I will be putting together more of an accurate prioritized list for the rest of the coming years. So.
I see those as being 3 areas that truly need to be fixed at the present time. And so then would you come forward with a budget, or would it cost the $300,000 to have those 3 fixed?
Not for I'm anticipating not the 3, but we do have a problem that just came up on Blythewood as well. It was put on a priority list a few years ago, but it was never followed through for, again, budgetary issues. So that will be put on the list as well for this year.
Good job.
I'm anticipating that it will be put on the list for this year.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay, could I get a motion that council receive the report for information, and I'm sure we'll get more details next week, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? Oh, did you want to speak again?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we're making a motion to receive this report for information, so I guess are we looking for a motion to direct staff to?
No, I think that's going to be forthcoming.
Yeah, no, I kind of got that at the tail end of that motion. Just want to make sure. Okay.
All right, all those in favor of receiving the report? Oh, is there a mover seconder? Okay, sorry, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the last item is the Souk Fire Services Commission update. Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to reiterate everything that's in the report. I just wanted to bring council up to date that the commission will be beginning its meetings tomorrow. It's completed the first part of its mandate, if you will, and its information gathering. So we begin meetings tomorrow. I will also update you that the commission is expecting to have its budget preparations done as per its terms of reference by the end of March.
Are there any questions, council members? Okay. Could I get a motion to receive this update? Seconder? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And so that leaves us now to move in camera. And could I get a motion to move in camera? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I'm just going to read out the notice for moving in camera. The motion to close the meetings to the public. The motion is to close the meeting in public under section 90. Subsection 1A, personal information about an individual that can't be identified. Public, 90.1E, acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements. 90-1K, negotiations relating to discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages. And 90-2B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or a federal government, or both, or between a government and federal government, or both, and a third party. So we're going to move in camera. So thank you very much for attending the public portion. No. Thank you. And